The Catholics of Oz is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit GiveStarQuest.com.
You're listening to episode 157 of The Catholics of Oz. The Catholics of Oz is a show where we discuss faith, culture, and what's been happening from an Aussie perspective. Whether it's synods or science, apostolate synapse, providence or productivity, you can hear it right now on The Catholics of Oz. Hello, I'm Lindsay Sant, and welcome to episode 157. As always, good to have you with us. We're very excited to share another show with you. But before we do, let me introduce who is with me. As always, my lovely sister, Caroline Knight. Here she is. It's a different time of the day, but she's hanging in there. How are you, Caroline?
Yes, I've had a full day of being a mother today. Took the kids to the cinema, did a bit of shopping. It was good.
Yeah.
Yep.
What did you watch
We
at the cinema?
saw Minions versus Monsters or something like that. Is that what
There's
it's
another
called?
one?
It's the latest Minions movie.
I didn't realize there was
Your
another
son,
one.
Alex would love it. It is
Okay.
so
He loves the
quirky and
Minions.
funny. It's
Okay.
crazy. Like, it's just laughs the whole way
Okay.
through. Yeah.
Good to
it's
know.
funny. Yeah.
All right.
So,
And
yeah.
someone else who I'm sure hasn't seen Minions versus Monsters yet is Lino Saubolle. Lino, how are you today?
Good evening? Yes,
Evening.
Yes, good
Yeah.
evening. It sounds so strange to that though. It's like, good morning, everyone. What? But that was the good evening. Good evening. Yeah, we saw Toy Story 5 yesterday. Was
Is it Toy
yesterday?
Story 5? Oh my gosh,
Yes,
I'm so
it
out
is.
of it.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
5. It wasn't too
Oh.
bad. It wasn't too bad. The plot and everything was great. It was all. This basically is about technology versus old school toys.
Okay.
That's I didn't want to spoil too much about it, but yeah, it's a
Awesome.
good concept. Good
How does
concept,
it
good
rate
concept.
compared to some of the classic Toy Story films like 1 and 2?
It's like I'm trying to say which Star Wars films are best.
Ooh.
You just
We're getting to that
can't.
point, aren't we? Yeah.
We can do that.
We're getting to
We
that
can
point.
do
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, I don't know. And look, each one of them has got their own storyline and everything. So I like this one's good. This one's
Okay.
good, and
Cool.
I really highly recommend it to anyone who wants to see it. In any age, for the adults, is some of the humor is for us too. So that's what I like about Pixar.
What it's like,
You start
yeah.
laughing, and the kids go, "What are you laughing for?" Yeah, that's a bit of a adult in joke for that.
That one
I'll
was
tell you
fully grown
later
up.
on.
Yeah, that was fully grown up.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, great movie.
Okay, and the last movie I saw was... Yeah, I can't remember. All right, let's move on. All right. So
we have to go. We have to go. Well, all three of us have to go.
to movies.
What about Odyssey? You guys interested in seeing Odyssey, or is that a bit too much?
Maybe.
Could do.
Maybe.
Could do.
I feel like it's going to be long.
I feel like I need to read the Odyssey
I was
first.
about to say, yeah, I might have to read the book and see how
It's
it
a
goes.
Chris Nolan film, isn't it?
Yeah,
Right. Okay. Yeah. I want to see Disclosure, actually, with the Steven Spielberg movie. That might be-
What is
Yeah.
with Steven and Spielberg and aliens?
He loves them.
He
Good
likes-
storytelling.
He loves aliens. It's like every movie we watch. What was the other one called? 5 mil or 10 mil? About the kids who go with the camera.
Sure. Okay.
I
Oh, no,
haven't seen
that
it.
was J.J. Abrams, wasn't it?
Oh, was that him too?
I think
Oh,
so.
okay. I'm getting confused now. Oh, I'll leave it. We'll leave it for the SPQN other.
Yeah. For Secrets of Movies. Yeah. Leave it in their hands. Yeah. I'm sure there'll be an episode about Disclosure. Yeah.
You know,
all right.
it looks good. The Moana film that's not
Live
animated.
action.
Oh, live
Yeah,
action. Yeah. That'd
That
be interesting.
that looks good. I'd
Yeah.
like to see that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew The Rock will come back to do that. He had to.
Yeah.
See, he does a voice anyway, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He does a voice
yeah.
of
Yeah.
for Moana. So might as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Those are our movie reviews and predictions.
We did entertainment first.
Yeah, first, yeah. So if you're new to listening to The Catholics of Oz, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast player. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and some positive feedback so that we can hear from you and reach new people, which is what we are all about. SQPN also hosts The Catholics of Oz on YouTube. You can subscribe by searching for SQPN or StarQuest Network. And don't forget to hit the bell and get notifications when new episodes of this show and all the other great shows on the network are released. Guys, I've got to say, our episode with Archbishop Comensoli blew up a little bit on YouTube. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
algorithms got excited. It was really
Thank
happy his
you
message
to
got out there
everyone
to
who listened.
we had
exactly.
just over a couple of thousand people, which is yeah.
For us, it's good.
That's big news for us. So yeah, no, it's great.
Better than our usual 3 people.
Oh, come on.
Which are you, me, and Lino? So,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we create our own content because everything else is trash. So yeah, we need something to listen to.
Oh no. That was
Right,
a great interview. That was a great interview with Archbishop.
It was very fun.
We didn't ask him too many hard questions, so we wouldn't make it too controversial, but he was a great. He's in Rome. Did he say he was in France? Oh, yeah, he said he was he's in Rome right now. Part of Europe, but yeah.
He's actually in Rome as we speak. Yeah.
That's right.
There we go. All right. So thank you to him for being part of that last episode and for the great conversation we had. Speaking of great conversations, let's move to Faith Beyond Borders.
Well, I'm actually feeling rather good about this. I think we've all arrived at a very special place, eh? Spiritually, ecumenically.
How do you make somebody love you without affecting free will?
Welcome to my world, son. You come up with an answer to that one, you let me know.
Yes, I had to work very hard to pass Latin and theology.
Oh, quite. Those are, of course, the most important things.
Oh, yeah.
I'd sit this one out, Cap.
I don't see how I can.
These guys come from legend. They're basically gods.
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
So, guys, I'll give you the background to my topic first of all. I knew that today I would be going to the second day of the Proclaim 26 conference. So it's a 2-day conference. The first day was yesterday, which was a Friday. Now, I'm at work, so I can't go on the first day. But the second day was just as good, my understanding of it. And the keynote speaker for the 2 days was Sherry Waddell. Now, I've mentioned her on the show before. She has written the Forming Intentional Disciples book, which I did a bit of a review of and took us through and spoke about. And she's amazing for talking about evangelization. And it was great to actually be in the room and listening to her speaking, in person about some of the topics that she spoke about today. So what I decided I would do is attend the conference, take lots of notes, order those notes a little bit, and then make that my topic for today because I wanted to share. And I'm glad I did because what she's put together or what she shared was really good. So I'm going to do my best to share these notes. So bear with me. This is going to be my topic for today. And the Proclaim 26 conference itself is a conference that's put on every year by the Archdiocese of Melbourne. And it's all about evangelization and parish renewal and parishes at the forefront of evangelization in our local communities. And so they always have a guest speaker, and different workshops on the most contemporary understandings of evangelization today, especially right here in Australia and in the heart of our church in Melbourne. So it was really good to go, and I met some lovely people. They're always nice meeting some people I've never met before from our, from Catholics from other parishes. So I really enjoyed having that. And they make great coffee as well. I just thought I might throw that in too. So that kept me going all day. So
no decaf, I'm afraid. No,
I don't know. I didn't even walk. Yep. Didn't even bother. Yep. So I'm going to title this topic a phrase that she said, and I'll get into why this phrase is so important. She said, "Never accept a label in place of a story." Never accept a label in place of a story. She said that a few times, and that's going to be the frame, I think, of how I'm going to describe some of the content she shared. So first of all, she said, like, when someone tells you, if you're having a faith discussion, I'll get to threshold discussions later, but she said, if you're having a faith discussion with someone and they say to you, "I'm a Catholic, I'm an atheist, I'm a spiritual but not religious," she said, don't let that label be what you believe about them. She said, because people use labels about themselves depending on who they're talking to. So with you guys, I'm really comfortable, so I'm happy to say I'm a Catholic. You know what I mean? And with other people, actually, I'm always comfortable saying I'm a Catholic, so I'm good with that. But the thing is, like, the people who are exploring faith, and when they use those words, it may not mean to them and to you what you understand and what they understand those words to mean. So let me give you an example. Someone may say, "I'm a Catholic because they were born into a Catholic family. And they may or may not have been baptized, but they understand that culturally their family was Catholic. They may not practice, they may not attend mass regularly, etc. But the religion closest to what they might identify as with is Catholic. But it may not be Catholic in the way that we understand it. If someone says, I'm atheist, now you and I have a definition of atheist, but a person who says they're atheist may have a different understanding of what that word means as well. So, for example, they might say, I'm atheist because they reject a particular God, but they might believe in another God, or they might have a different spirituality. So what she's saying is, when someone tells you this label that they are, don't let that be the end of the conversation, because she says there's a story behind the label, and that's what you want to get to. Because she calls them threshold conversations. I'll explain why in a moment. But these threshold conversations, these stories of people's faith, is what can actually lead to greater evangelization, on setting people up on a pathway to finding, discovering a relationship with Jesus, which is what our church is all about, what we are all set up for, which is fostering relationships with Jesus, which lead to discipleship. So in her book, which I've reviewed before, and I won't go into these in a lot of detail, she talks about a person's faith journey as thresholds of faith. So, you cross a threshold into the next one. It's like, moving from one step to the next. So the natural journey, the most natural journey of faith, is that a person who could be on a journey towards the Christian faith is that they have what's called this initial trust. And this initial trust in some kind of faith content might be, for example, a set of rosary beads that grandma left behind when she passed away. And grandma was very close to her faith, and she loved these rosary beads. And you inherit these rosary beads, or you find them when you're searching through grandma's stuff. It's like, oh yeah, she had that, And that's a trust. That's an initial bit of trust you might have in some faith content because grandma trusted in it. Does that kind of make sense? Or it could be that someone isn't religious, but you are, and they trust you because they know you're a good person. And they may not share the same faith as you, but they trust that you're getting something out of your particular faith. So they might trust some faith content. Look at Lino. Lino's a nice guy. He talks about Jesus in such a positive way. And, even when Lino's struggling, he seems to not be overwhelmed by his struggling because his faith seems to sustain him. That might be a trust. And there's all kinds of things. Maybe Pope Leo says something that you agree with. There's trust. So that's just the initial one, right? It puts Christianity on the radar. And then, depending on this person's faith journey, it could lead to greater curiosity, asking more questions, wanting to know more, not committing to anything, but just more delving a bit deeper because that initial trust is there, that bridge of trust, leading to openness. That is, I'm not religious, but I wonder if there's something in it for me. Maybe there is. And going further with that, from openness, if they continue, they'll start seeking. That is, I want a relationship with God. I want to know more. I want to enter into the church. They're actively seeking now. They want it to get there. And from seeking, they move into discipleship. I'm fully committed. I have a relationship with Jesus. I'm a disciple of Jesus, and I want to follow it wherever it takes me. And I want to discover more about my love for God and how God loves me. So that's the 5 thresholds of faith. So what she goes on to say then is, she talks about how people are coming into the church in bigger numbers for some strange reason in the last couple of years. Archbishop Comensoli was talking about this, and he used the example of France, and she talked about this as well. Like the French church seems to have one of the biggest influxes of people. I think it was 23,000 people this year at Easter came into the church in France. And that wasn't just the 23,000 this year, it's the people who came in the previous Easter, the previous, and so on. And there's a trend in the Western world in a lot of places where there's a spike in people entering the church at Easter. So she mentioned that as the context. And she said that these people who are coming into the church, then they're people who, for them, Christianity seems to be something new. So they have no connection to Christianity at all, but it's a new thing that they've discovered through that initial trust that was built, however that trust came about. And they've explored and explored. They've entered a Catholic church and said, hey, I'm here. I want to know a little bit more. They've entered RCIA, and boom, baptized Catholics at Easter. So there's this context that's been happening. And she talks about this idea of threshold conversations. I am going to get to those a little bit more, but she says, first of all, there's a culture in the church that we need to address, and that is that people don't necessarily talk about their faith in Jesus. And she said that a lot of Catholics don't seem to have heard that our faith is about a personal relationship with Jesus. We relate to a God who is personal. Our God is not distant. Our God is personal, is with us every day. A companion with us in our life, not just a concept that's far away. And she's talked about how she's met Catholics, priests, bishops, people all over the years who've never heard it explained this way. They're committed. They love their faith. They love the church, everything. But they haven't come across this language, which is the language of the church, that our God is a relational God, a personal God who relates to us. God came to us in the person of Jesus, and Jesus related person to person with people. You showed it practically, and that hasn't changed. God still relates to us today. Our relationship with we don't worship a religion, we worship a person, and that person is Jesus Christ. So she says we seem to have like this don't ask, don't tell culture in our church for some reason, and I think I agree with a lot of that, because and it's not a criticism of my parish, but I haven't often had an opportunity facilitated where we talk about our faith. I sit in the pews next to other Catholics, but when do we ever have conversations about our personal relationship with Jesus, our faith in Jesus? Rarely ever, if at all. So basically, we need to change that culture is what she's talking about. Now, she said all of us have the ability to evangelize through building that bridge of trust. We can all be that bridge of trust for people. And it can be for people who are already in our churches, because even though we have lots of baptized Catholics, not all of them are at the discipleship threshold yet. They might be Catholic, but only at the trust threshold or the curiosity or the openness, but they haven't reached that discipleship, because where's the formation? Where's the opportunity in their parish for that to happen? So she talks about we can be that threshold, that bridge to the threshold of trust. And so she's talking, and I know I've talked about threshold conversations. I'm getting to it. So to give me a bit longer, I'll get to it. And she said, we want to help people move to this openness to faith. And she said, because once they get to openness, you can move them from like not just restricted to the automatic prayers that we say. Sometimes we say our fathers and rosaries, and it's just a very automatic process, and it means nothing if it's automatic, right? It's got to be from the heart. It's got to be fully engaged, heart, mind, and soul in our prayers, right? And what the words actually mean, and what it is we're actually committing to saying when we say Our Father and Hail Mary and so on. And she was saying that when we get to openness, it's a great time to encourage someone who you're guiding in faith to make a prayer of openness. She talked about how her prayer was when she sort of encountered God in a profound way. She said, my prayer was, God, if you're really there, show me. I'm paraphrasing that pretty badly, but that was it. But she said, encourage people to talk to God with their own words. And this is the important thing, authentic prayer, relationship with God. Foster that relationship with God by getting them to talk to God with their own words. That doesn't mean don't say Our Fathers, Hail Marys anymore. Don't get me wrong, all right? There's a reason why we say those prayers, and they're important. Jesus giving us the Our Father, etc. But on top of that, get the personal relationship going through our prayer. So what we want to do is take people through this trust to the first proclamation of faith. That is, we proclaim the faith to them, the gospel and everything on their journey, and then to discipleship. And this is for people who are new to the church and people who are already Catholic and are on that process of conversion. So in the Catechism, there are two paragraphs that she talks about, and they're under part 3 of a section of the Catechism called the Conversion of the Baptized. And it says in 1427, Jesus calls to conversion. This is an essential part of the proclamation of the kingdom. The time is fulfilled and the kingdom of God is at hand. Repent and believe the gospel. In the church's preaching, This call is addressed first to those who do not yet know Christ and his gospel. Also, baptism is the principal place for the first and fundamental conversion. It is by faith in the gospel and by baptism that one renounces evil and gains salvation. That is the forgiveness of all sins and the gift of new life. So this is for people converting, we say converting, not just from another religion, but any kind of conversion into the Christian faith. So people who are not part of the Christian faith yet. In addition, 1428 says, Christ's call to conversion continues to resound in the lives of Christians. So this is us, right? The second conversion is an uninterrupted task for the whole church who, clasping sinners to her bosom, at once holy and always in need of purification, follows constantly the path of penance and renewal. This endeavor of conversion is not just a human work. It is the movement of a contrite heart, drawn and moved by grace to respond to the merciful love of God who loved us first. And this idea of God who loved us first, she says that that actual grace, the actual grace of God, is there for everyone, regardless of their baptism or not baptism, whoever they are. She says God is everywhere, and whether a person loves God or acknowledges God or not, God is there. Whether you like it or not, God is here right now in our reality every day, pouring grace on us all the time in order to, encouraging us to find God and be in relationship. So she said, in this case, with all this in mind, the parish that evangelizes is the one that is able to meet people where they are in the thresholds, whether it's curiosity, openness, etc. But it's a parish that can identify where people are and respond to their needs of faith at that particular time, because everyone in your parish is going to be in a different threshold of faith. Some are going to be curious, some are going to be open, some are going to be seeking, some are going to be disciples. And because there's 5 and it's a list, I forgot what the other one was, but that's the way it works with my brain. So we'll move on. So in between Sherry's first and second talks, I went to a couple of workshops, and I just want to briefly, I think the workshops I went to, just by coincidence or providence, whatever you want to call it, lined up really nicely for me with the theme of the day. So the workshop I went to was about the spheres of formation. And this was presented by a person from Melbourne's Proclaim team. And it was all about what formation looks like, how to build formation in our parishes. So I'm going to read from a little sheet that she handed out, just a couple of quick points. So she and the Archdiocese of Melbourne defines formation as this: being called and shaped by Jesus Christ for the unique evangelizing mission he has given us, especially through cultivation of the whole person in the human, spiritual, intellectual, and pastoral spheres of Christian life. So the spheres of Christian life where we need formation are our human formation, our spiritual formation, our intellectual formation, and our pastoral formation. And this is the growth of the entirety of our Christian life. So she asked us to reflect in your parish or in your life. Can you think of times where you've been formed in your human formation, in your pastoral, in your intellectual, and in your spiritual? And she gave some examples of what those are. So in the workshop that followed, it was about creating a culture that welcomes people who are hungry for God. And I will pause for a second for discussion in a moment. Sorry, guys. But the presenters in this one talked about the context of the church right now. And we're seeing, in the Western world, at Easter, more and more people are coming to the church for baptism and to enter into the church. So I talked about France, the 20,000+ people who have come into the church. What's interesting is that in France, when you are ready to, or when you want to be baptized, when the time comes, you have to write a letter to the bishop of your diocese to explain why you want baptism. So that, catechists and so on, they help people to write these letters. They give their faith testimony, their journey, and so on. So the bishops of France have collected a lot of data about why people are coming to the church. And I won't repeat all of it because Archbishop Comensoli last episode told us about this already, why people are coming back, family reasons. He talked about, and this was repeated today, young people, have Muslim friends, and Muslim friends are practicing their faith so powerfully. Like, for example, during Ramadan, they see how their Muslim friends are are practicing this sacrifice, of not eating during the day and so on for their faith. And these young Catholics are like, well, what do we have? Oh, we have Lent, And so the practice continues, but they're inspired by the faith of their Muslim friends to explore their Christianity, which is beautiful. So there are all kinds of insights. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Sorry, my apologies. That the bishops have. In Australia, the Brisbane Archdiocese saw an 88% over last year's entrance into the church this year, and the Melbourne Archdiocese saw a 57% increase, in people entering the church as well. And there's been a lot of secular and academic curiosity about why this is happening. Now, they asked catechists from the Archdiocese of Melbourne, because they don't write letters here in the Archdiocese, so they asked catechists to speak to their catechumens, people who are entering the church. And so here's some of the things that they said. Converts are coming from mostly non-religious backgrounds, so they're hearing about Christianity for the first time, or learning about it, and they've been coming into the church in Melbourne from non-religious backgrounds. Faith is being transmitted horizontally and not necessarily vertically. So vertically is family, from top to bottom, like, raising kids and so on. But actually, horizontally, it's peer-to-peer. So people are seeing the faith of their friends, for example, and becoming curious about that. And so there's been a lot of that going on as well. And also, there's it's people who are exploring different philosophies, different ways of life and so on online. So good old YouTube search and so on. And when you do that, the algorithm ultimately will point you to religion, and Christianity is there. And they're finding in some of the Christian content that they're finding this thirst for God. One of the priests who said that people like this coming to him, he said, all right, their theology is a bit funky because they've heard a few interesting things when they're coming in. But the thing is like that, you can't blame them for that, right? They're hearing all kinds of things. They're searching for truth. So, all right, good. It's led them to come into the door. And then from there, that there's that guidance and formation that can happen. And one of the challenges then is good old Luke 10:2, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. And that's what we're being asked to think about now, is becoming laborers, more of us committing to being laborers, because there are people who want faith and there are not enough people who are there to help, guide them through it. So that was the important thing that came up in that part of the workshop. So I'll go to the end of the day now, back to Sherry Waddell. And the bit about talking about having threshold conversations. Before I talk about threshold conversations, do you guys want to comment on any of this? Because I've talked quite a bit. Caroline, any thoughts on what you've heard so far?
I just think there's a lot of things that we haven't thought about before. Well, like just in my everyday life, like Catholic life, all the different aspects, of our faith that we can explore, and why people do practice their faith, why people come to the faith. It's all quite interesting, and it's not anything I really thought of before, I guess, because I've just been Catholic since I was 2 weeks old, basically.
Yeah.
So,
we are all cradle Catholics in this podcast.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. So I'm really happy and interested to hear about different people's experiences, and it's just really it's really cool to hear the different ways people are inspired to explore Christianity and all of that. Yeah. So I think that's wonderful. And, talking about the personal relationship with Jesus, I was just thinking to myself, if I didn't have a personal relationship with Jesus, I would find life really difficult because there's so many challenges, like, in life. And I'm like, and thank God I've always turned to Jesus. So, help me through this, like, God help me, like I literally prayed out loud, God help me, because like sometimes you've just got something that you just can't manage at that time, we don't like it. I think this personal relationship with Jesus is all usually associated with other denominations of Christianity, but it doesn't have to be, because our Catholic faith is definitely probably the most personal relationship with Jesus you can have, especially with the Eucharist and, and going to confession and things like that. So I just think, that's just something we can think about as Catholics,
Yep. I won't even respond to what you said, because you've echoed a few interesting points that were made about the sacraments and our personal relationship as well. So that's, beautiful. Nice one. Lino, any thoughts you want to add to this?
Yeah, it's trying to think or imagine the other side. Imagine ourselves, we have nothing in common with Christianity or anything about, do I believe in God? And then thinking, I like to go into this journey with our Christian brothers and sisters. How do I go about that? And you go into a church and you think, what is this about? I like to know a bit more, and I like to have that positive feeling, that love that all of you in the Christian community have. Can I be involved, and can I be part of it? Because I see it. I'm just saying from a lay, not a lay person, but a person who has any influence in Christianity whatsoever. I'm not going to say the word a newbie, just a total, just a refresh, like a restart, a restart from something that you've had before, and you wanted just to come back. Even people who have had Christianity or the love of Christ before and fallen away from it, maybe they want to come back.
Yep.
And feel that love again. And then this is a good guide, and know about that.
Yep. And people who have fallen away and come back have also been featured a lot in this conference as well. They were talking about this too, for all kinds of reasons. Yeah. So thank you both for that. That leads us to then these kind of evangelization conversations that we can have. I know that when you hear the word evangelization, it can seem like a scary word, because it implies, at least if you think of examples you've seen or the cliche, evangelization means you walk up to a random stranger and say, have you heard about Jesus? And that's not evangelization, because you know what happens when you ask a question like that? Goodbye, don't talk to me, all right? Like, freak. All right, that's not that's not what it is. But what it is what she says is, before I get to these threshold conversations, you need to build a bridge of trust first. You can't just go up to a random stranger and ask them about one of the most personal things that, faith, something that people can feel very uncomfortable talking about unless they trust you first. So we're not trying to manipulate people. We're not trying to have an agenda. If you are authentic about a person and, wanting to evangelize or help them to know Jesus, then you're with them regardless of what they decide to do, regardless of their decision. If they say this isn't for me, you don't abandon them 5 seconds later. So that's the bridge of trust. So when you've got this bridge of trust and the opportunity is there, and she gave all kinds of great examples about conversations she's had, some of them quite funny. But she said these threshold conversations now are these ones where you help people to articulate what they believe. Because she said, in a lot of cases, there are so many Catholics who have never told anyone what they believe, never had a chance to tell the story of their faith. And so they don't know what they believe, or they believe, but they've never really framed it in a way or put it in a way they can understand, what it is that their beliefs are. And she said, it's interesting what comes up, because she said she came across a person who didn't understand anything about personal relationships with Jesus, yet this person was a catechist. This person was doing formation programs in their parish. Not to say that this person is a bad person, but this person had never come across this. So if they hadn't been taught in their own church that, we have a relational God, how are they supposed to experience that and then share that with other people? So threshold conversations help us to establish what our faith is like. So she said, first of all, it's asking others about their lived relationship with God and listening. That's it. Not using it as an opportunity to correct or an opportunity to explain, but asking the question, what is your lived relationship with God, and then listening to the response. And maybe asking clarifying questions, you know, if you want people to explain more, to know more, but then listening to what it is they have to say. And she said when people do this, they articulate their faith maybe for the very first time, and they start to understand their own faith. And it helps you to start picking out bits and pieces of what it is they're saying. Like, for example, do they have a concept of a personal relationship with God at all? So she said, you know, when can these conversations happen? She said, well, after you've established trust, they can happen anywhere and anytime. They need to be supportive and inviting. So, for example, they could be used in an RCIA program. So that's the Rite of Christian Initiation, or people who, as adults or, you know, want to become Catholic. And she said maybe returning Catholics is a good conversation to have, you know, about their coming back. If people register for a parish or visit a parish for the first time, and whether it's the parish priest or someone else who's equipped has this conversation, it could be during pastoral counseling, it could be during spiritual direction, it could be during marriage preparation, or it could be when discerning, you know, helping people discern their gifts. So she said people are more than just telling their story. They're also having someone to listen to them put their faith into words and to support them. And so that's why she said when people say a label like I'm Catholic, I'm Protestant, I'm Jewish, I'm atheist, I'm whatever, again, they're using those words as they understand them. But their understanding of these words may not be the, you know, our understanding of these words. So we can't just go, all right, they're Jewish, goodbye. All right, that's, you know, it's always important to learn more. She said, here's what we think about. The first question you might want to ask is something along the lines of, can you describe your relationship journey or your relationship with God? What's it like right now? Or can you describe your faith journey? Something along those lines, something to establish. And she said, normally people start talking. Like she said, for example, she was on an airplane, and there was a Jewish man sitting next to her, and he just turned to her and said, "What do you do?" This was really pointed. "What do you do?" And she said, "Oh, I work in evangelization, and I, help people to find their faith in Jesus." And he goes, "You're interesting. Let's talk." And they had this hours-long conversation on the plane, you know what I mean? And she had a threshold conversation with him right there and then, asking about his faith. And she said, when people are talking about their faith journey, she said, these are the listening points. Listen for the following things. Do they believe in God or not? Or what kind of God do they believe in? A personal God, an impersonal God? Do they believe that there is a possibility of relationship with God? If they do, what kind of relationship do they believe in? A good one, a difficult one, a bad one? God's not a good God. God is things like that. What religious tradition are they part of? Or if they describe themselves as Catholic, what do they mean by I'm Catholic? What bridges of trust are you hearing? My grandma, Jesus is a good person, Pope Leo said this, I've got some rosary beads that belong to whoever. All right, what little bridges of trust have they accessed that has led them to this conversation? Do they have any knowledge of a lived relationship with Jesus Christ as a disciple? Can they articulate that or not? So these are just things to listen out for. The other thing is, she said, Catholics are used to orderly things, right? The Trinity, the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, the 7 sacraments, go to Mass, good. But people are not orderly when they articulate their faith. For example, she said that she had a threshold conversation with a Jewish woman who had an atheist rabbi. The Jewish woman believed in Jesus, and she knew about Jesus through going to an evangelical Bible study. Now, that would boggle the mind when you think about it, right? There are a lot of things in there. It's like, whoa, how does that connect with that or whatever else, right? She said, you cannot expect people to be orderly because they are all on this search for God, and they're all in different places. So if the first question is, can you describe your relationship journey or your faith or your relationship with God, she said the last question after all of that conversation, you listening carefully and then you listening for those points of faith that they talk about, she said, ask the person, if you could ask God or a supreme being, whatever it is that you believe in, one question that they would answer right away, what would it be? And she said, this question helps them to express what their burning issue with God is.
Really? Yeah. I guess that. Yeah.
Yeah. And she said, usually it's their barrier to God that question will be, right? So she said, for example, people have said, I would ask God, why is there evil in the world? I would ask God, why has my life been like this? I would ask God. So she said that it's a revelatory question where people really reveal the core of maybe what they are trying to overcome in order to understand God, to know God, what their barrier to God might be. So really powerful what she spoke about. So she said in 2026, there are some common factors of those people who are coming into the church. She said anxiety about life. People are looking for something more. They've tried all kinds of things and all those things are empty. So they're anxious about life. What's a good old St. Augustine? God, our hearts are restless until they rest in you, right? So there's that thirst for more. And she said people are finding that more in Catholicism. People are looking for stability in their lives. People are coming from all kinds of religious backgrounds and non-religious backgrounds as well. So the last thing she said, and this is where I'll conclude and get your final thoughts. She said, people don't move through those 5 thresholds at the same speed. Everyone is different, all right? Human beings process everything at their own speed. So if we accompany people, which is what we are called to do, we also need to be patient in our accompaniment as well. So there you have it. That is a very rough summary of what I took on board today. But it was an amazing day. And if anyone wants to know in more detail anything about what Sherry Waddell has said, I would recommend reading Forming Intentional Disciples. It is an amazing book and a great one if you want to understand what being an intentional disciple of Jesus, which is what we were all called to be, what it means to be an intentional disciple of Jesus. All right, Caroline, any thoughts on threshold conversations or anything else that you've just heard?
I mean, it's great. I think it's a really great guide into, when the topic of faith comes up with people and maybe they ask you to explain your faith and why do you believe and what do you practice? And then they tell you what they practice and what they believe or what they don't believe. And then I think there's some good points there, that starting points or just points that can assist you in thinking about how to talk about these things. So I think it's really, I think it's something that we do need to be educated in, just so we can have a good conversation with people about it as well. And, just help them think about their faith and help us think about our faith and have that joint conversation with people. So I think it's, really some really great points there.
Yeah, and going on that catechism reference before, it's like you said, it's people who are coming into our churches and being able to have those threshold conversations with them. But then also the second part of that catechism quote was, what about the conversations with the people who are already in our churches? And again, like, how often do we listen to someone else talk about their faith in Jesus in a one-on-one or a small group setting? And how often have we had a chance to articulate our own faith in Jesus? And the whole point of this is so we can understand what we believe better and then, and then be formed better in our own faith. Yeah, thanks for that. Lino, any other words from you? What do you got?
Just that question. That is awesome. What would you ask God? Because that is so deep, and then I can, in this sort of day world, the responses and the questions they want to ask to us and to our Christianity, goodness me, just blows my mind. Like you said, you go on the airplane, someone asks you, what do you believe? And you go, okay, then I believe in this. But then I ask myself, even though you talk to the other person, you can kind of ask yourself, what would I ask God? Even though our journey in our Catholic faith has been going on for 40 years. Yeah, I think we're 40 years. Yeah, for so long. I'm not saying anything how old we are. Anyway, I personally, I sometimes ask myself, God, why is this happening? How is this happening? And how can we, as a Catholic and a Christian community, pray and help? Not solve. The sad reality is we can try to solve things, but it's the journey of trying to just work together about it.
Even how can we respond, isn't it? If we can't solve it, how can we respond? Yeah,
true. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, guys. And so just wanted to share that message because I thought it was a really powerful day. All right. So if anyone who's listening has any thoughts on evangelization, threshold conversations, anything along those lines, get in touch with us. But we're going to move on now. So Caroline, over to you, because we're going to talk about science.
What a fine day for science.
You have any hobbies?
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Can you reverse the polarity?
I'll do my best.
Science, 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 science. Science, 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 science. Yeah, I like science.
So Caroline, I'm half looking forward to. I'm looking forward to half this conversation. So first word, I know exactly. So the first word is Neanderthal. I'm cool with that half. The second half is dentistry.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to hold my mouth while you talk. Caroline, over to you.
All right. So yes, I am going to be talking about Neanderthals and how they practice dentistry. And I don't think a lot of us knew that they actually did. So let's get into this. So who are the Neanderthals? So their scientific name, Homo neanderthalensis, and they are a hominid species. They are our relatives. And it's like our human cousins. As controversial as that can be, that's the fact. And they were a species of hominid who emerged roughly about 430,000 years ago. They lived in many parts of the world, so from the Atlantic coast of Wales and Iberia across the Mediterranean and Central Europe, all the way to the Levant, which is Israel, Jordan, Palestine, Lebanon, in that region, and the icy landscapes of southwestern Siberia. And they were able to thrive in all of these environments until they disappeared from the fossil record about 40,000 years ago. So really, that's quite recent as far as time goes. So we do know a lot about our Neanderthal cousins, where they lived, what they ate, what they look like. We know about their social life. We know that they made fire. We know that they were highly intelligent, so they were quite, they have a bit of a bad rap as being, you call someone a Neanderthal like they're stupid.
That's what they say.
Actually,
it can't be both of an insult, Caroline. It's more, I am a Neanderthal. That's my cousin.
Yeah. Well, genetically, we all have most of us have a little bit of Neanderthal DNA.
Hang on, what did you say about my cousin?
Another topic for another day.
That's true. That's true.
All right. So, yes, they were very intelligent human species. And the one thing maybe that most of us didn't know about, and I did not know about this either, that they did perform dentistry. So, in May this year, a paper was published in the journal PLOS One by Lino Saubolle and her team of colleagues, and they unveiled a discovery that challenges our understanding of the Neanderthal capabilities. So there's a cave called the Chagrinskaya Cave in the Altai Mountains in southwestern Siberia at the very eastern edge of the Neanderthal range. Researchers actually identified 59,000-year-old Neanderthal molar. And this was not just any other fossilized tooth, because they found Neanderthal teeth before. This is a pretty special one. etched into its crown was a deep, artificially engineered cavity. So it represents the oldest definitive evidence of an invasive dental treatment in the human fossil record, which predates similar procedures by Homo sapiens by more than 40,000 years. So in this cave, there have been revealed thousands of stone tools and animal bones alongside the genetic remnants of the Neanderthal population. Now, the tooth that they found was a lower left second molar. It belonged to an adult. Now, to the untrained eye, the tooth just looked battered and worn down, which is typical for a prehistoric hominid whose diet was filled with gritty, unprocessed foods. But when Dr. Saubolle and her team examined the chewing surface of the tooth, they noticed something a little irregular. So right at the center of the tooth was an oddly shaped hollow. They measured it. It was 4.2 millimeters in length and 2.8 millimeters in width. It went down to a depth of 2.6 millimeters, and it wasn't a standard pit caused by normal wear and tear, but it was a massive crater that completely exposed and hollowed out the chamber of the tooth. And this is where the nerves, blood vessels, and connective tissues are. Yes, it's sounding painful because it probably was. Now,
my teeth are hurting right now.
Yes, so all those people just hang in there with me. I know it's horrible. I hate the dentist too, but it's really interesting. Okay, I do avoid the dentist, I have to say. Now, to understand what this poor individual went through, we have to look at the biology of the tooth. So, the outer layer of the tooth is the enamel. Beneath it lies the dentine, which is a softer calcified tissue. At the core is the pulp. Now, in a healthy mouth, the enamel and dentine act as a shield, but when the shield is breached by cavities, the bacteria can enter into the dentine and head towards the pulp, and as many of us know, this can be extremely painful. I do know this firsthand. Okay, so the authors of this study used microcomputed tomography or micro CT scanning to have a look inside this tooth. They found clear areas of demineralization and heterogeneous structures within the dentine. So this was proof of a deep raging tooth infection. Poor person had a huge infection in their tooth. It would have been really small. So as we know, a deep cavity like this can cause excruciating throbbing pain. And because the tooth is like a closed box, when an infection takes root inside the pulp, inflammation can cause pressure to build up rapidly and there's nowhere to escape. Now, this wouldn't have just been an inconvenience. It would have been a debilitating condition that could prevent eating, disrupt sleep, and compromise survival, especially at this time. So the patient was in desperate need of relief. Okay, so when researchers inspected the sides of the molar, which is the interproximal surfaces where pressed against the neighboring teeth, they found clear evidence of a heavy mechanical wear, specifically near the neck of the tooth where there was a deeply grooved, highly polished channel. Now, this is characteristic of what anthropologists classify as a stage 4 toothpick use wear. It is well-developed, visible groove measuring between 1.5 and 2.8 millimeters in width. Now, on the opposite side of the same tooth, they found a lighter, localized polish patch covered in parallel scratches, which this represents a stage 2 toothpick wear, the early phase of groove taking shape. Now, what this tells us is that the individual was consistently and aggressively jamming an object between their teeth.
Oh, my goodness me!
While the Neanderthals across Europe have been frequently documented using toothpicks to dislodge trapped food, as we all know, sometimes we need to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got popcorn in my teeth for today
Oh,
from the
yeah.
movie. Now, the presence of these grooves on a single heavy decayed tooth suggests something more urgent. So the individual was likely using toothpicks made of bone, wood, or stiff stalks, not just for hygiene, but as a primitive mechanism to alleviate the radiating pain of the infection or to clear out food debris that settled into the cavity.
Into the cavity. Oh.
And probably caused a lot of pain at the same time. So, toothpicking, it was a superficial fix and wasn't going to really help the tooth infection heal at all. So, the real mystery lay inside the massive crater on the chewing surface. It didn't look like a typical cavity left behind by natural decay in Homo sapiens either, but the interior walls of the hollow were covered in distinct geometric scratches. So, to determine whether these marks were caused after the individual died from damage caused by the weight of soil over millennia, or if they were a result of intentional actions, the team used a high-resolution microscopic analysis. They found that the interior walls of the cavity featured horizontally oriented lines running parallel to the edges of the concavity. The margins of the crater weren't jagged, they were smoothed down, which exhibited characteristics of a gloss or polish. Now, in the world of microwear analysis, this kind of polish and scratch pattern usually only occurs when the surface is subjected to repeated mechanical friction during life. So the conclusion was that someone had taken a sharp, hard tool and intentionally operated on the tooth. And they didn't just scrape the surface, they manually drilled into the living dentine of the tooth to hollow out the infection.
Wow.
Okay.
Worst day of that Neanderthal's life.
Poor
for that. Yes.
Poor Neanderthal.
So there was an experiment done to prove the conclusion. Okay, so the researchers selected 3 modern human teeth for the experiment. 1 healthy wisdom tooth recently extracted from one of the study's co-authors, Dr. Lydia Zotkina, and 2 historical teeth from an archaeological collection. Using the doctor's fresh extracted tooth was a brilliant methodology. Great choice. I'm too tired to pronounce it. A dried museum tooth behaves differently under mechanical stress. It's brittle and lacks moisture. So the fresh wisdom tooth provided a perfect analog to the moist living dental tissues of a Neanderthal tooth sitting in a jaw. So next, they looked to the archaeological record of the Chagriska cave to choose their dental instruments. So the cave is rich in lithic artifacts made from locally sourced raw material known as jasperoid, which is a hard, fine-grained flint-like stone. Now, among the tools found in the same layer as the tooth were small retouched stone points and specialized implements called perforators. These feature a narrow, elongated, and sharp projection at the tip. So the researchers fashioned exact replicas of these perforators. Then, using nothing but their fingers, they attempted to drill into a modern human tooth.
Oh.
Not the one in person's mouth, that one that they were They placed the sharp stone tip into the center of the crown and applied a gentle, steady, rotating motion, twisting the tool back and forth between the thumb and forefinger. Now, this process was slow, meticulous, and labor-intensive. So to breach the enamel and penetrate deep into the underlying dentine using the manual rotation, it required between 35 and 50 minutes of continuous focused work. Ouch.
Wow.
Ouch. Yeah.
Now, during the experiment, the hard jasperoid points occasionally exerted too much pressure, causing some of the dried comparison teeth to crack. But on the fresh, moist tooth, the technique worked really well. The stone point ground away the tissue, systematically clearing a circular hollow. So when the experimental teeth were placed under the microscope and subjected to the same microscopy as the Neanderthal fossil, the match was amazing. The manual drilling, the stone replica produced the same stepped grooves, the same profile measurements, and the same horizontal parallel microstriations along the interior walls that were seen on the Neanderthal tooth. So this experiment successfully demonstrated two important things. First, it proved that a Neanderthal stone point was fully capable of drilling through dental tissue without modern machinery. Second, it confirmed that the marks on the ancient molar could only have been made by deliberate manual rotation technique. And really, it was a validation of prehistoric dentistry. So, and just remember, the poor guy or girl was doing this, enduring this without any anesthetic.
Anesthetic, yeah.
But, you know, they said that the treatment was a success because the microscopic analysis revealed that after the operation was over, the individual didn't die of an infection, nor did they abandon the tooth. They survived, the infection was healed, and they continued to chew food with that very same molar long enough to leave distinct patterns of wear over the newly drilled surfaces.
Wow.
So amazing.
Life went on. Yep.
Life went on. So, yeah. Even though it would have been quite a painful thing to have to endure.
Yeah, it would have been awful. Yeah.
Unless they had some kind of natural anesthetic that we don't know about. That Neanderthals were very intelligent hominids, and they were able to perform dentistry to improve their lives. So, love it. I just love that.
And there wouldn't be any evidence of anything, if at all, that was used as a filling, because it would have, degraded over time. So if they happen to have some kind of something as a filling to provide comfort or whatever, you wouldn't know that wouldn't exist anymore, would it? So we'd have no idea.
Well, if it did exist, it wasn't long lasting. It came out, but you're right. Yeah, maybe in the future they will find something like that. I don't know. But
I just wonder if they thought of putting a filling to, I don't know, to provide comfort or to stop infection or something like that as well.
Maybe there was an organic kind of filling that was in there that we don't know about.
Some
just
wax, some hard wax or something, or tar. Or it was tar, or very tar. But that is amazing, Caroline. Oh my goodness.
No, I just, because I was wondering for a second though, I thought before when you said they were going to do an experiment, and I thought you were going to say, so they got 3 volunteers. No. Open your mouth for science.
I think it's hard enough to get someone to go to the dentist when you know you've got anesthetic and all the rest of it, let alone doing it without. And I mean, after my last root canal, I have not been to the dentist because I just cannot. I just cannot go through anything like that again.
Hard work.
I couldn't imagine doing it with no
without
anesthetic.
Me too. I've had my teeth pulled out, one of them in the back, and without that I would have been in excruciating pain. Gosh, did they grind them up tough in those days? Oh goodness me.
Everyone who is listening who has had dental surgery is holding their mouth right now.
I'm literally clenching my jaw.
I've had 3 wisdom teeth taken out, and just that was as interesting, but that, oh gosh. Wow, that is hardcore. Now, whew, but he lived. Sorry,
it worked. It was
lived. It worked, and that's wow, unbelievable, unbelievable,
amazing.
Great, thank you for that, Carol. That's a great topic. I wanted to just in the last couple of minutes talk about. We actually got some listener feedback from our last episode. I can't go through all of it because there's a lot of. I mean, we didn't normally get this much, so I just wanted to mention. So we had one comment which just relating to what Archbishop Comensoli said. Says I'm from Surfers Paradise, great place in Queensland, by the way, guys. Yep, there you go.
Love Queensland.
From Surfers Paradise Parish, Gold Coast. Over 20 mostly young people were received into the Catholic Church this year, and there's a little heart emoji at the end of it.
No.
So people are, in our little parishes, not in our little, sorry, in our parishes are feeling this movement as well. So thank God there's, there are parishes like this one in the Gold Coast. I'm inspired by stories of this. So grateful that that you shared that comment with us. I wanted to point out as well that there were a lot of comments from people who, I don't know, who just felt like they couldn't agree, but had no reason for not agreeing. Like, for example, there were a couple of people who were pointing out this, about this thing we said about Muslims that the Archbishop always says. So, for example, I don't think it's got anything to do with Muslims. I just want to point out, and I'm saying it in this episode, people wrote to their bishops in France that it was their Muslim friends that encouraged them to be Catholic, to enter into the Catholic Church, or to be more Catholic with this faith, with this Catholic faith that was a remnant in their family, and to rediscover it again. This isn't some made up thing. When Archbishop Comensoli was in France, he asked why, and the French bishops told him this. And how do the French bishops know? Because they have a tradition of people writing a letter to their bishop, or to the bishop who is going to do their baptism, or who is going to receive them into the church. So people said this. So please, if you don't think it's Muslims, you need to say why, right? Don't just be upset that it's Muslims, all right? So thank God there are Muslims of goodwill who have encouraged these people to enter into the Catholic Church. That is the grace of God moving, all right? Please do not write comments because you don't like the fact that it was Muslims who did it. You do not get to say how the grace of God works. The grace of God works in all kinds of ways. And if you are Catholic, then you need to listen to what the church says about God's actual grace. It's right there in the catechism. So I'd just like to say that, because I think it's really important that when we are Catholics who make comments, our comments can be seen by others. And those comments can be discouraging for people who want to enter into the church when they seem to be really judgy, and when they seem to be really dogmatic, and it's, and black and white, and it's this way and it can't be that way. All right. It's really unfair. Can I also point out for people who make comments, please don't be negative about people who make this show. We are Catholics just like you. We pray to Jesus just like you. We love Jesus. We receive the sacraments just like you. And we want to be closer and closer to Jesus just like you. You may have a way of doing that, and I'm grateful to God that you have a way of doing that, and that is great. But you don't get to say that the way that we do it is not valid. For example, a person who made a comment about people being received into the church, it's not the actual church they're being received to, because the mass that they are is not the mass that should be. Guys, if you're Catholic, you need to be better than this. All right. If you follow the Pope, you need to be better than this, because that is not Catholic, that attitude. We are a church that is also charitable in our discourse. So please do not make fun of me or of my co-hosts, because we do this podcast because of our Catholic faith. If we didn't have our Catholic faith, we wouldn't do it. If we didn't want to share God with other people, we wouldn't do this podcast. We are disciples of Jesus, just like you. And we are always positive, and we are always polite, and we are always charitable. And you can go through episodes where I've responded to feedback of people who don't agree with us, and we welcome their feedback because they said it charitably, and we respond in charity as well. So if you leave feedback for this podcast, be charitable, because you are not advancing the cause of Jesus, and people see what you write, and all you're doing is reinforcing, oh, look, Catholics, they're judgmental. Oh, look, Catholics, they're like this, they're like that. So please think about what you write when you write a comment, because you are not doing Jesus any favors by being negative or judgmental, or by saying that this is the only way to have faith. And with that, I say, God bless you. That's my brotherly correction for all of you. So on that note, we want to thank everyone for listening to episode 157 of the Catholics of Oz. And before we go, we'd like to thank our patrons. I actually didn't get a list of patrons in time. So where I get to say thank you to all the patrons of StarQuest. You are wonderful. And it's because of you that this podcast and all the other great podcasts that are there for the mission of Jesus, there's a reason why they exist. All of those podcasts and shows, which we do know have brought people to Christ, because people write to the network. And Dom shared a beautiful letter earlier, I think it was earlier this year or late last year, about someone who found Jesus who was an atheist because of I think it was Jim Aiken's Mysterious World, or was it another one, Secrets of Star Trek? It was one of them anyway, because of the shows that this network creates. So your donations, your prayers to this network, to SQPN, help that to happen, help all of us, to do this. And by the way, I should mention, the Catholics of Oz, we don't get paid a cent to do this. Again, it is our love of Christ the reason why we do it, and why we support this network and help to advertise the work that it does. If you would like to give financially, givestarquest.com, and you can find ways to give there. Don't forget that StarQuest shares its newsletter, sqpn.com/about/newsletter, where you can find out more about what's coming up in future episodes of future shows. StarQuest is on all kinds of different social medias. Just search for StarQuest or SQPN, and you'll find it and you can be part of it. There is SQPN's Discord, sqpn/Discord. Come and have a chat with us there. We'd love that. Or if you'd like to chat with us on our own Facebook page, Catholics of Oz at sqpn.com, spelt OZ, or good old email. Sorry, that was the email address. I meant to say search for Catholics of Oz on Facebook. Yeah, I'm doing well, Lino, I know. Yeah, sorry.
You're good. Yep. You're doing well, man. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's all right.
So please get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. We do read comments, and we do celebrate that people interact with the show and the content that we create. So, Caroline, thank you so much for being part of the show today.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say I'm an authentically joyful Catholic, and that's why I do this show. And the three of us, how you hear us here is how we are in our everyday lives.
Yes, right.
And we know we know a lot of other Catholics who are like us, and we are all joyful together. And we wish you all joy, and we wish you all love, and we wish you all blessings, and may you all be happy in your faith. That's what we 100%. Want for everyone.
Beautiful comment. And Lino, thank you so much for being part of the show today.
It has been an amazing show about faith and about how we can build and and make it more stronger, and also that science topic. Oh, Caroline,
I know my tooth still hurts.
That is like, I am serious. Everyone knows that I'm almost serious. That is like top notch. That is amazing. I cannot believe. Was it 40,000 years, million years ago? People were doing that. Whoa! And now we've technology, and we can go on about the science and everything, how it's advanced so much better than back in those days. Yeah. And thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for us advancing technology in a positive way and less painful way, in a sense. Yeah.
Thank God for anesthetics. Yep. And once again, I'm Lindsay Sant, and thank you so much for listening to episode 157 of the Catholics of Oz on StarQuest.
Here's another show on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy, The Secrets of Middle-earth. Find it wherever you can find podcasts or at sqpn.com/Middle-earth.